So, a rabbi and a skeptic walk into a video podcast. It's not as funny, but that's supposed to be the title of this podcast. I'm Gary Rosenberg, here with Rabbi Dahlen of Shared Tzedek in Southfield. How long have you been there?
10 years. 10 years
Nice.
this year. Yep.
Nice. That building, whenever we would drive back from Lansing to visit my older siblings when they were at Michigan State, I knew I was home when I'd look up from the back seat and see that building.
Yeah.
What a gorgeous, what an iconic building.
It is iconic. There are many people who, whenever they have finally come in and they say, I've driven past this place so many times and I didn't know that this was a synagogue, or I didn't know people referred to it as the spaceship, the mountain, all kinds of other things that they...
Isn't it supposed to be a pair of praying hands? Or is that...
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
You ever heard that?
No, I haven't heard that. Usually the idea is that it's supposed to look like Sinai. It's supposed to look like Mount Sinai.
Maybe it'd be a pair of praying knees. Maybe.
Praying knees. There you
go. So our topic today, let's talk about... I've got a friend who's in the hospital, and we've been watching the last phase of his life, and he knows it, and he's okay with it. It's a man who has not been religious in any way, and Saturday, today is Thursday. Saturday he looked like he was a goner in the morning, and then they did something to him, and Saturday afternoon he totally perked up, and it was shocking. And just for a moment he started talking about God and miracles. It was just a sentence or two, but it was remarkable because I've known the guy for 50 years, and these are not his topics.
Yeah.
And as a rabbi, you're dealing with people who are ill. You're visiting people in the hospital as part of your job, not just because you're a fine human being. Does that immediately cause you to think of some question or some thought that we can kick this off with?
You know, it's interesting. The people that I talk to probably most frequently about God are kids and people who are dying. And their theology is usually pretty similar. Because for our kids, they have a very, I wouldn't call it simplistic, but it's, you know, they think about things in a way of saying the things that we tell them are kind of ingrained into who they are. So if their background is Jewish and they know creation story and they know God as a benevolent, all-knowing, all-powerful being, and that's kind of what they hold on to. God is this, you know, very traditional idea we have of like the bearded guy in the sky who's looking out for everyone. And
isn't that what he is?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
What? You're destroying my illusions.
I know, I'm so sorry. But that often people, when they grow up and then they start having the complications of life, they tend to be more skeptical, or they ask a lot of questions about, you know, kind of trying to question that central idea of that theology. And then, in their later stages of life, and especially when they're sick or dying, a remarkable amount of them go back to a very foundational, traditional idea of their theology.
So, the old classic saw is there are no atheists in foxholes or in open heart surgery.
Right.
That's what they say.
Right.
You find that to be true, do you?
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, I think that people need to find hope. And sometimes when you need hope, then you rely on some of the things that are probably the most foundational part of who you are, which is the theology that you were brought up with.
Well, the one you were brought up with. If your parents were liberals, you probably vote liberal.
Yeah.
If your parents were Orthodox, you probably are Orthodox.
Right.
Is it Pascal's logical conundrum or something that how does it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Can you enunciate it better than I can?
Yeah, it's kind of what is it? It's Pascal's. I don't have it off the top of my head.
He's hedging his bet.
He's hedging his bet, and he's giving his theological discourse saying, listen, here's the possibilities of God not existing or there not being an afterlife. But if the one possibility of God existing and me believing in God is what ultimately gives me redemption and saves me, then I'm going to put my money there because that's going to be more important.
And if you choose to believe in God and it turns out that there is none, well, then you've lived a life which may be a better life because of it.
Right.
Possibly.
Possibly.
You know, I'm sure arguably.
Or at the very least, you didn't lose anything by choosing that.
Well, you lost your Saturdays.
Yeah. Right.
Well, but I bet you would argue you didn't lose your Saturdays.
Exactly right.
How many years have you been observing Shabbat?
Since graduate school, so probably 18 years, 17 years, something like that.
So you didn't grow up with it?
Didn't grow up with it.
And talk to your parents and say, oh man, this is great, you should try it.
Yeah, it's also very different because I grew up in Sioux City, Iowa, where the idea of being Shomer Shabbat is going to be very different, even if you're Orthodox, because it used to be that the Jewish community in Sioux City lived very kind of close to one another, but like all cities, it spread out. But when you have such a small community and everyone is spread out, then it really is very different. And then I went to school in South Dakota, very similar, very few Jews, and they're not going to be spending that much time together when they're, right? But,
right.
So then when I was in grad school, it was the first time I lived in Cambridge, and I lived in a community where that was a walkable community for all of my Jewish needs. So it was really freeing and liberating in a way to be Shomer Shabbat, to be Shabbat observant, because it allowed for me to have a Jewish identity that I'd always wanted to have that I'd never had before.
You knew you wanted to have it?
Well, I knew I wanted to. I'm gonna go off on a quick tangent. I think people feel their Judaism in different ways.
Tangent alert.
Tangent alert, for sure. People feel their Judaism in different contexts. For my wife, she says she always feels more Jewish and more aware of her Judaism and more pride in her Judaism when she's with her non-Jewish friends. When she's with non-Jews, she feels more
Jewish.
Jewish. Jews. Right. For me, probably because of my background, it's when I'm with Jews that I feel loud and proud about my Judaism, right? It's different when I'm with non-Jews, but I feel like that's what I had been thirsty for, was Jewish community.
I can see being thirsty for it. I mean, I grew up here.
Yeah.
There's plenty of Jewish community around here. I'm in Huntington Woods. I'm in Hanukkah Woods, as they say.
Exactly right.
You know, matter of fact, I was fighting a ticket once in Warren, Michigan, and the way the judge said Huntington Woods, I sensed he didn't have a lot of Jewish friends.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though the guy was a lawyer, he knows lots of Jewish lawyers. But anyway, I digress. My tangent's over.
Okay. So I mean, I think that kind of sparked within me that first time where I was saying, where I wasn't the token Jew anymore, and I wasn't the one who had all these non-Jewish friends who said like I was setting the precedent for Shabbat observance or anything else. I had other people who could be there and speak the same language.
Okay.
As it was, so it made it much easier for me to be in that atmosphere and that kind of understanding of observance.
So looping that around to this discussion of end of life, did your thinking about end of life issues change when you got more religious?
Yes and no. I think it's probably more complicated and more nuanced now than it's ever been for me.
As you get wiser and older?
Definitely as I get older. I don't know about wiser, but older for sure. I mean, when I was in rabbinical school, one of my internships was a hospice chaplaincy internship. And that gave me a whole different perspective on end of life and questions of the afterlife. I saw a lot of people die, and I was with a lot of people while they were dying, and poignantly with a lot of family members while their loved one was dying. And everyone coming to terms with that in a different way was something that was also very eye-opening. For some people, there was a little bit of peace in their belief of this is the end and that there is nothing else. And for other people, there was peace in a firm belief of they are now in heaven or Olam Haba or whatever the afterlife might be in their definition.
Are there ever people who you've dealt with who would like to believe as they're dying, say, "Well, I'd like to think that there's something."
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
And they ask you to give me an argument here. Help me out here.
They
Give me something to give me a rope to grab onto.
Well, it happens in two ways, which I think is interesting. Is there are the people who say like, "Let's talk about it because I do want to believe in it," and then there are other people who say, "I'm scared because I'm not sure what if that is true, where my place is in it." Right? That's good Jewish guilt, and it happens more with Christian patients than it does with Jewish patients. But it was the understanding of like, "What if I don't get in?" kind of mentality.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
What if I don't get in? Do you personally believe in heaven and hell?
Personally, I do not. I think that a lot of our ideas of the afterlife come from the Italian Renaissance and the paintings of very Christian theological traditions of what the afterlife looks like, and a lot of our ideas of the afterlife come from Dante.
Okay. Do you think there's a judgment after death?
No.
Do you think there's a heaven of any kind?
No.
Where do you suppose? Do we have a soul, and does it go somewhere after our body dies?
Okay, now now we're talking something differently. I think the idea of a soul is something that I believe in, though I'm not entirely sure what that looks like. And for me, that's more the idea of B'Tselem Elohim, of being created in the divine image, that all of us have a spark of the divine within us. And if we're all part of God's creation, and we have this awareness of even being able to contemplate God and to talk about understanding something bigger than ourselves and understanding the possibility of something that exists beyond us after we die, then I think that gives us some kind of placement in whatever comes next. But what that is, I'm not sure. But I think also coming from a very scientific standpoint, I've always been placated by the idea that energy can't be destroyed. So even when we pass away, when our bodies go back into the earth, the energy that we have created in our lives and the energy that still exists within us lives on. I don't know if that means that it lives on in any kind of cognitive form where we understand and know and can have free agency somewhere else, but...
So is there a price to be paid after death for living a shitty life?
I mean, I think the price you pay for living a shitty life is living the shitty life.
Yeah, but what if everything works out for you? What if you're a bum and yet you have healthy children and a great marriage and a lovely life and everybody's healthy and you live to be a nice ripe old age and you're a bum, you treated people poorly, and so there's it makes me sad to think that there's no I kind of hope that there is, and I don't want to say why, but
yeah.
I just hope that there is.
Yeah, I mean,
I think some people are getting away with stuff.
Oh, no doubt about it, 100%.
But as far as you're concerned, they get away with it and then they die and they've gotten away with it. They won.
Yeah, I hear you. I also wrestle with that sense of justice and when that's going to happen.
Yeah, there's no justice
Right.
in that case.
Right.
Many people avoid justice their entire life.
Yeah.
They skate.
No
and
doubt.
they use people and they get away and they have no compunction. They have no. They don't have a what's the word I'm looking for? A conscience.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't care.
Yeah.
If they rip people off, it's everybody's out for himself.
Yeah.
And the guy or woman can live an entire life like that and die and there's no judgment. Okay, interesting. That's this. Now I'm really learning what is this typical conservative Judaism?
No.
It's just you.
Yeah, it should make an asterisk and send this to the Jewish Theological Seminary that this is not traditional conservative theology. And it's written into, I mean, we don't really have an idea of like creeds within Judaism, but the movements have come out with their own kind of statements of belief. And the conservative movement usually stands on the idea of believing in the existence of an afterlife and of a messianic redemption. So I would say that as that is kind of but try to find
A
3
messianic
conservative
redemption.
Jews.
It's like Jesus.
Well, it depends on what you mean by messianic. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast talking about what messianism is.
Doesn't it mean Messiah is coming?
Yeah, but is the Messiah a person, or is it a messianic age that creates some kind of goodness or peace or utopia or something like that? There's a whole lot of different interpretations.
Utopia.
Utopia.
Right. A good place and no place.
Exactly.
Can't exist.
Right.
So no judgment. Go ahead.
But for the no judgment piece,
yeah.
I think it's a chicken or an egg kind of thing where, where I come from is more about living with awareness and mindfulness and morality in the here and now. And this is where we might agree or disagree, is I think even if someone has a good life, but they're a bum, I would question if they even understand and appreciate the goodness of their life.
Well, many people sleepwalk.
Yeah.
They don't think. I mean, I was 47 when I sat up in bed and I said, I'm ready to ask some bigger questions.
Yeah.
I got some stuff figured out. Maybe it's time to play with some bigger toys. And it's a lot of fun. It's been an interesting journey for me, but plenty of people just don't.
Yeah.
They just go, but all is good. Why do I want to question it? I don't want to ask, why am I here? Whoa, that's nobody else's business, and I don't want to make it mine. You're opening up a can of worms when you start asking, why am I here? What's the purpose of existence?
Right, but that's the traditional, the unexamined life is not worth living kind of thing, right? So yeah, you don't want to shake the boat, you don't want to rock the boat, and you miss out on the profundity of life when you don't ask the questions.
Well, it's been fun for me. I've enjoyed it. I ran into a friend at a bar mitzvah, and he said something to me that he intended it to be a compliment. And I looked at him, I said, dude, you need to hang out with smarter people. If you think that I know something, because I was doing lunch and learns and talking to rabbis, and these people are asking the big questions.
Yeah.
As you studied for hours a day for years, part of that was talking about the biggest questions there are.
Right.
You're not just cruising through life, and this guy knew a lot. He could tell you who the Lions' third round pick was in 2010, 2011, 2012, and the Pistons and the Red Wings, you name it. And I thought, and he's super smart, really brilliant guy. And I thought, man, there's stuff out there that's more interesting. There are better toys to play with than the Lions and Tigers and Bears,
Yeah. But it's also, to defend your friend, there's also, I think, a lot of, what's the right word? It's a lot of those questions and a lot of those emotions can be played out. It's almost like role playing them in a different venue. And sports fans are very poetically natured.
Well, you've got good and evil, you've got home and away.
Yeah, you've got the emotion that comes with it. You have loyalty, you have trust, you have heartbreak, you have all of those things. So even though people have the stats in their head.
Yeah, but loyalty, to quote whatever comedian, I think it was Seinfeld, he said, you're cheering for laundry.
Yeah, you're cheering different.
They trade a guy, he's a bum. Here's a good example. Do you know hockey at all? Okay, well, in Detroit, all the hockey fans I know thought that Sidney Crosby was a bum. Yeah. Because he was the captain of the hated Pittsburgh Penguins. And they beat us one year, and we beat them, they beat us, and he was a bum. His career is about over, and he had a spectacular career. Yeah. By any way of looking at it, these guys still think he's a bum. Yeah. But they felt the same way about Chris Chelios until he was traded from Chicago to Detroit. Right. Now he's our guy. Right. So I'm not sure what I see it a little bit of as a time waster. Yeah. What am I missing? Is there tell me what there is to learn.
I mean, it's I think there's profound questions that come from, you know, who talks really profoundly about sports is Malcolm Gladwell.
I like Malcolm a lot.
Yeah, he talks about it a lot. I mean, he thinks about it a little bit differently. He says that most people, you know, have the underdog story in their hearts where they want, or, I mean, I think this happens to a lot of people. March Madness comes around every year. I'm rooting for this team I've never heard of before.
Gonzaga State, right?
Right. Who, because you want them to, you like a good story. He flips it on his head and he says, I hate that. I want the team that is statistically supposed to win because otherwise...
What a snooze.
But then he says, but then otherwise the world doesn't make sense. The world is supposed to make sense. There's a lot of rules that are supposed to be written out that says...
Then don't play the game.
Right.
Don't play the game. Just say, oh, they got the best record, give them the trophy.
Right.
You know, golf may be the only sport that I can think of that is not that way.
Yeah.
People want to see Tiger win.
Yeah.
They want to see Rory McIlroy win.
Yeah.
They don't want to see Harris English,
right,
or Jeff Provost. I just made up a name.
Yeah.
They don't want to see a guy they don't know win. They want to see the guy who they know is great be great.
Right.
But
yeah,
I still want to back into this discussion of the afterlife, about death, about people who you talk to who are going through the last phase of their life or their family member is, and if they don't have religion to hang on to, you're saying some want it and some just don't.
I think very few people don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to get invited in? Is this like the vampire has to be invited in?
No. I mean, it's an interesting part of hospitals.
Somebody has to invite you in, don't they?
No. I mean, there's chaplains.
You can just walk into a room and say, hey, I'm a rabbi, you want to talk?
Yeah.
You ever do that?
Yeah, a lot.
And the people don't know who you are.
I mean, this happens less now that I'm here, but I mean, when I was a chaplain in Brooklyn, I mean, that happened all the time. That was my job, was to pop in every single person's room and to make my rounds and visits and say that my name is Rabbi Dahlen and I'm a chaplain, and we spend some time together. And to be obviously very respectful that if they don't want to visit, that I'm not staying there, right? But it doesn't mean I'm not going to try again at a different time to come visit them. And chaplaincy is interesting because it has nothing to do with trying to convince someone of any kind of religion or theology. Your job isn't to try to, gain some supporters with your hospital visit. It's to be with them at a really hard time in their...
Right, well, you might gain supporters from their family members because, wow, this guy really helped Dad go through this transition. Maybe we should go check him out one Saturday morning, see what he's got to say. That never happens?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. It happens. I mean, there's no doubt about it that when a clergy member is with someone or with their loved one through the end stages of their life, that a family is, unless you completely botch their eulogy or something, has a very strong connection to you because you were with them at a very powerful moment. And it brings you close. I mean, moments of trauma, moments of loss, profound moments bring people closer together.
So you've done that a lot.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And you say more often than not, they want something.
I would say more often than not, the person who's dying definitely wants something. And more often than not, even the family members who might be the most skeptical of family members are still looking for something to hold on to in those moments.
I've seen some amazing stuff, haven't we all?
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was dying, and he started talking to me about the fact that his illness was a great gift to him because he'd been too weak to turn people away who wanted to show him their love and concern. And he'd been turning them away his whole life.
Yes.
And that's what he said to me. He said, this has been a tremendous gift to me. And he says, I could have been a lot more easygoing and more willing to let people in, but I'm glad it happened. Wow. I mean, learning life lessons on your deathbed, that's not great. That's better than not learning them. But, it'd be nice if you didn't have to learn them. Maybe that's why you go to synagogue and read the scriptures and do all the religious stuff so that you learn the stuff at your leisure as you're growing, as opposed to learning it. I got 5 minutes before I'm going to die. Teach me something that I need to know.
Even then, it can sometimes go, in one ear and out the other. I think a lot of these moments, a lot of these lessons, we can't learn until we finally are in that position. And that's a really powerful one. I mean, that resonates with me personally as someone who I think is one of the reasons I became a rabbi, is that I feel very naturally connected to people, and I like being with people and to hear the things they're going through and to be there when they need me. And I feel a very strong aversion to do that myself, to open myself and to give that away to people, right? And so having that idea of, sorry, you're going to be, when you're on your deathbed and you're sick, people are going to come and and the people that love you are going to come take care of you, and they're going to come give you love and appreciation no matter if you want it or not. That's powerful.
It's powerful, and you said that you had a reversion to wanting that yourself. What was that phrase?
Yeah.
That didn't really stick with me. She's got toys and she wants to keep playing with them.
Yeah, she's done it.
I'm going to take them all away one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, the word I should use is an aversion, right? That it is much harder for me personally to open up and let people in than for me to be with people and be present with them when they are doing the opening up and letting in. And I am aware of that for myself.
Isn't that part of your training, to let yourself be that person who lets people into you, which maybe gives them permission to let somebody in?
Yeah, it's hard because there's a balancing act that comes with being a rabbi, of you want to show who you are with your full authenticity, with an open heart, and you never want your congregants to be taking care of you.
What do you mean by that?
You are there to take care of your congregants, to be with them in the hard moments and to hear them and to support them. And you want them to be able to see you as a real person that also has all of the faults and shortcomings that a real person has, but you cannot have them be your caretakers. They cannot take care of you.
So you mean you can't break down and be in need of them going, there, Rabbi, and boo-hoo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo. Oh, the rabbi came to see my dad, and the rabbi just fell apart, and we were all like, oh, it'll be okay, Rabbi. You can't let that happen.
Right.
That's not professional.
That's not professional.
And it's fine to be professional.
And it's fine to be emotional. But it's fine.
Oh, there's a limit.
But there's a limit. You can't be to a point where you cross over where they have to stop their own vulnerability or their own grief or loss to then comfort you.
Well, then you've made it about you.
Exactly right.
A friend of mine wrote a speech for another friend's wedding, and the first time I read it, my voice broke at a certain spot, and I thought, no, I was a professional entertainer. I thought, I can use that.
Yeah.
Because I almost couldn't get through it. But after I practiced it 5 or 6 times, not only could I get through it, I could let my voice break because it was an honest reaction.
Right.
And because I had been a pro, as doing public speaking and what have you and performing, that I could do that.
Right.
A rabbi is a professional, and there are lines that you draw. You always want to be honest, but a professional. Oh, you know what? That gets to one of my favorite definitions. A professional in 2 things I want to say about professionalism. A professional in any field is always better than an amateur. A lot better. Professional golfer is a million miles better than
For sure.
a professional painter is way better. A professional carpenter is way better than the guy who builds stuff in his basement. The guy can build beautiful stuff in his basement. He just can't do it for a living.
Right.
Because he would never know how to get a job finished. And the other thing I want to say about being a professional is that I made this one up. Being a professional means understanding what the fudge factor is. In other words, not everything has to be perfect.
Right.
If you think everything has to be perfect, you're not a professional.
Correct.
A pro knows when, okay, I've gone far enough with this, I gotta go on to the next room. I can't fix all their problems. It would take me 3 more hours to make an incremental difference. It's time to move on.
Right. A professional has to know how to stay consistently professional. Right?
Yeah, or you're not a pro.
Right.
You can't send a bill.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Very interesting. So you do that hundreds of times. It's part of your training. No?
And it's part of our training. We take what's called CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. There's coursework involved with it. There's processing groups involved with it. But I only made that face because there's only so much you can actually prepare for in a classroom as opposed to being out in the field and actually living those experiences. I mean, the processing group is probably the most important part of clinical pastoral education because you can talk with your group, but also with a mediator who's helping the conversation.
Okay.
To go through and be able to process those things.
So what are you helping them with if it's not to prepare for an afterlife?
I am there to help them prepare for an afterlife if that is what they believe in.
Okay.
For sure.
And if they ask you your opinion, do you give it?
It depends. Depends on the person, right? If I have someone who I can tell when they're talking to me is saying, "What's your opinion?" and I know that they're saying, "Please, I really want to hope and believe in something right now," then I'm going to change, not in a dishonest way, but I will talk about those things in a very different way than I would if I was with someone who I knew was really philosophically exploring what that looks like for them and wants to do that in an intellectual way.
Well, you can believe in an afterlife in an intellectual way.
For sure. Yeah. But some people feel like in those final hours, the exploration of it is more important than knowing the certainty of it or not.
Well, the exploration of it, okay. The last 6 months of my dad's life, he kept saying, now what?
Yeah.
He asked that several times. He's not a religious man. And when we carved his headstone, we mentioned this to the rabbi, and he goes, "That's beautiful." He said, "That's a very Jewish thing to do, is to ask the question." That says that he's wondering whether something's going to happen. He's questioning if there's a soul that lives on, because the body's not going to live, and we were glad that was acceptable.
Yeah.
So that's what we put on his headstone.
You put "now what"?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now what? And a question mark,
That's probably closest to my theology.
Yeah, it was. He said, and he also said, very philosophical man.
Yeah.
And he said, Gary said, you can have all the philosophy you want to. He said, I don't want to go.
Yeah. I love that because I think that is the most profound way of saying what everyone else is saying, right? Everyone else is trying to say, make sense of this for me, tell me what comes next, but what they're really saying is, I don't want to go. And I think a lot of people are, some people are saying, it's time for me to go because they're in pain or they're, whatever it might be. I think that's the scary part of death is life is short. Even if you lived a long, full life, it's short.
And getting cheated would be a bad feeling. If you're young and you're sick and you go, wait a minute, I did nothing to make this happen to me, and airplane fell out of the sky on me, and I got about an hour to live,
Right.
That seems unfair.
It is incredibly powerful, and it's something that the rabbis of the Talmud wrestle with. There's one of my favorite aspects of Talmud is there's a guy in the Talmud that everyone hates. His name is Rabbi Elisha ben Abuya.
I hate him. I just don't like his name.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's got an awesome name, but they don't even call him. They don't refer to him by his name. They call
Elisha
him
ben Abuya?
Elisha ben Abuya.
Oh.
And they call him Acher. They call him the other. And the reason
He's the guy wearing the black hat.
Yeah.
Well, they all wear black
hats. They're
hats.
black hats, yeah.
Huh.
He becomes kind of their boogeyman in some ways because he is representative of what happens when you lose your faith. for the rabbis. So he's the teacher of Rabbi Meir.
He lost his faith.
He loses his faith, and the way he does it is a good example of what you're talking about. Is that he's a very learned, observant Jew, incredibly bright, knows all the halakha like the back of his hands, everything. And then he sees a child climbing up a ladder to shoo away the mother bird before collecting the eggs, which is written in the Torah, right? It's one of the mitzvot is to shoo away a mother bird while you collect her eggs. And while he's shooing away the mother bird, this boy falls off the ladder and dies. And for Elisha ben Abuya, he sees this as an example. He sees this and says, how could it be that a all-powerful, omniscient, merciful, compassionate God would kill this person who is in the midst of performing a mitzvah? And then he completely loses his faith and goes, as we would say, like off the derech, right? He's no longer an observant Jew. And he still knows everything, and he still is incredibly bright and still wrestles with his tradition, but his idea of a faith in that kind of justice or order in the world is gone.
And do you wrestle with that, or does this make perfect sense to you?
I wrestle with it every day. Because when I was in hospice, I was primarily dealing with people who are end of life in their 80s and 90s, but I had to be in the same hospice room for kids. And I had to be for people who were, I mean, I'm not talking 20, 30-year-olds, which is terrible enough. I'm talking 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And for me to make sense of that.
I cannot imagine. And you got the parents hanging out there.
Yeah.
That's got to be brutal.
Yeah. And they're mad. And
the parents are mad.
Yeah. And they should be.
Are the kids mad?
Some of the kids are mad. Most of the kids are scared and sad. And don't want to feel hurt. They don't want.
They're in pain.
Yeah, they don't want shots. They don't want IVs. They don't want pokes. They don't want to be in the hospital. It's the Elisha ben Abuya moment to say, what am I supposed to do with this?
And do you have an outline of how you handle those moments?
No.
Are they just different every time? Do they eventually fall into categories?
Yeah, they're probably patterns. There are probably patterns that I could and probably should pay attention to make an outline like that.
Well, I didn't mean a literal outline.
No, I mean, yeah.
Well, you handle them professionally, but it's got to be shattering.
Yeah.
And is it difficult to not bring that stuff home with you?
It's impossible. I try. I mean, I have my system is whenever I do a really hard funeral or when I have a very emotional visit with someone, I go and I spend half an hour to an hour parked in my car listening to music or just turning off and completely before I go home. I just need to be able to not take that with me.
Nirvana usually?
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Black Flag?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Things that won't make me think about existentialism.
Captain Beefheart. Yeah, I can see. So not bringing it home with you, I mean, doctors suffer with this too.
Right.
And that's why a lot of surgeons are like, they're mechanics.
Yes.
And they do the same thing over and over again, and they save people's lives, and they got their hearts in their hands and their brains, and you know, they're sewing stuff up like so much yard goods, as Dr. McCoy once said on Star Trek. And if they brought it home, they couldn't do their job.
Right.
If they couldn't leave it at the office, they're gonna lose a percentage of their patients.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose a much bigger percentage of the people you work with because they're already. I mean,
I'll lose them eventually, if not in that moment. Yeah.
Right, and sometimes they get better.
Right.
And then they thank you. Say, see, we prayed together,
Yeah.
and everything, you know, look, everything turned out for the best.
There you go.
Everything turns out for the best.
Yeah.
So I think we're about at the end of our time. I don't think we ended up with a solution. But I did end up with more questions.
Good. That's better.
And had questions. You know, us Jews, we love the questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a week or so when we can get the rabbi's time, because you know he's interruption driven. If somebody dies or somebody's sick, he's got to go. And
That's
I got to
true.
stand here looking at an empty chair, which, I'll wait till you can show up.
That would be a fun episode.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.